Welcome to more live coverage of the Audi Sports R8 LMS Cup. We are here once again at the Zhuhai International Circuit, and the main talking point, Sean, has to be the weather. Just a few moments ago, as we were watching the previous race, the heavens didn't exactly open. It's not pouring, but it is wet, and that's going to change everything, isn't it? Well,
we were on the grid for TCR Asia just immediately prior, the 5 Audi RS, 3 LMS TCRs, and just as we got out on the grid, they built the wet weather sign up, wet weather tyres, the rain started to fall. It hasn't let up, and this is going to be a big thing because no one's run in the wet yet, and we've got a number of Zhuhai rookies in the field, and that could change everything. The thing I like, well, for Alex Au, he's been here before, he knows the circuit, and I think in this instance, experience is going to count, but he has to get through turn 1.
Well, plenty to talk about for this race, and also yesterday when we saw the maiden cup win for Yasser Shahin. Let's take a quick look back at the results and the highlights from yesterday's race. Well, Sean, I mean, Yasser Shahin was performing very well throughout last season, but yet to score a victory. And he has this knack, doesn't he, of doing very well on new circuits, or at least circuits unfamiliar to him.
Well, I think the big thing, and he said it yesterday to you on the grid, was he comes in with no preconceived idea of what the circuit is like. So he's listening to the engineer, he's listening to the data guys, he's also listening to his driver coach. He has a driver coach here this weekend. Of course, the mentors for the Cup, they're in there as well. He's taking all that on board, and he's applying it, and we saw that yesterday. That gave him the victory, but it was all set up in turn 1, and that really did have a big impact on that race.
Now, a couple of other talking points. The two main rivals for the title last year, Andrew Haryanto, of course, and Burrit Birrenbach, both again suffered. Burrit overtaking during the safety flag. That cost him a podium position with that 30-second penalty, dropped him down to 4th. And Andrew starts today from the back of the grid. What can he do to get his season back on track here?
Just got to forget about what's happened. Put it out of your mind. It's easier said than done. He knocked himself up a little bit yesterday about the way things went on. He got involved in contact. He got a penalty which forced him to start rear of field. He didn't come to qualifying this morning because he knew he'd be starting from the rear. That was a tyre strategy choice. But all bets are off now because the rain is going to change everything for everybody.
You're right. That was when we thought it was going to be a dry weather race, so different tyres anyway. Now, Alex Au, of course, did so well with that experience here in Zhuhai, of course, a local boy just from across the water in Hong Kong. Pole position yesterday and didn't make the end of the first lap. Pole position again today. What is going to be different from his strategy?
Well, he said to us yesterday when we spoke to him that nothing's really going to change. It's just he wants to get through turn 1. He can't control what the other drivers are doing. He felt he was well placed. He came out of turn 2 as the race leader, but unfortunately for Andrew Haryanto, went down the grass, tagged the tail of Alex Au, put him off at turn 4. That was game over. So reset the brain, reset the car, reset the approach. The weather is going to have a big impact. Now, what we saw yesterday was track conditions brought the drivers unstuck. Tony Bates admitted he went in too deep down a slippery part of the circuit. He couldn't quite pull the car up, but at the same time, things were happening outside him that led to that melee down at turn 1. So there's a lot of things for the drivers to take into consideration, but I think caution with this rain is the one thing that's going to have a big impact.
Now, I'll just ask you one more thing before I let you take a walk down the track and perhaps speak to some of these drivers. Daniel Bilski, a couple of frustrating qualifying sessions. He was in a bit of traffic today. He's got to try and put that out of his mind. But yesterday, from 6th to 2nd, he said, well, he started from 5th, so should be winning.
Well, yeah, he's getting to that stage. He's been very successful over the last couple of months in this part of the world. He's had wins in Thailand Super Series in an Audi for Sepang. So he's very hot at the moment. He's going to be starting towards the front, but we will get to that because we're getting into the zone. And that zone is zone red. Take a look at exactly what that means. The track conditions caught out a lot of drivers, including some of the experienced campaigners. That brought them a little bit unstuck. Unfortunately for Batesy, he didn't get much further than turn 1. That messed up his day. But things got interesting from there. Now we see Martin Kuhl, the Director of Audi Sport Customer Racing Asia, coming across. I'm going to get 2 words really quickly because, well, I am the media. We love talking to you, but the rain's going to make it all very different. Let's just hope today we can get through turn 1.
I agree. A little less damage than yesterday would be cool. But on the other hand, I mean they all have great pace. They're very competitive. Yeah, but I mean you don't win the race on the first turn. So I agree with you. Should be a good race. They're all good boys and they respect each other. So let's hope for the best.
Well, let's see how that goes. We'll let you go. I see Martin Rump coming. Martin Rump, come on, step in here very quickly.
I needed an umbrella.
You need an umbrella, thanks. I thought you were being a mate. But anyway, how's this weather change things for the drivers? How do you change your approach? And will that actually impact these guys? They're not all professional drivers. They're semi-pros, but to be able to reset your brain quickly as the rain comes down is a big thing.
To be fair, to begin with, the fact that it's properly raining right now is good because now we are wet tires, you know, it's proper mindset of a wet driving, and this changes the whole thing. Before, like 20 minutes ago, it was still damp, it was half-half. That would have been a lot more dangerous, a lot more risky, let's say. Now I think it's quite simple on plane. You drive like a rain, you know, normal wet lines and all the wet techniques that you use, and should be quite straightforward. Of course, now they haven't driven any sessions in the wet yet, so that's going to be interesting, but I'm sure they'll do fine.
Well, this is where track experience will be important.
Yes, for sure. But, I mean, at the end of the day, you need to feel the car and just squeeze out from the car. So, you know, either you have the experience from the track or the experience from the car. You have to put it together and not make mistakes. That's what it's coming down to.
Thanks, mate. We'll talk to you a little bit later. Of course, Martin Rump, a former winner in the Audi Sport R8 LMS Cup. We might just really quickly see if we can talk to Alex Howe. He's getting ready. I'm going to stick a microphone under his nose and just see if I can get 2 words. Alex, how are you feeling before this one, and how does the rain change things for you?
Right now there is some small technical problem with the car, so we have to fix that first. But yeah, the wet, if I can get through the first corner, should actually be an advantage because I will have all the spray behind me to make people can't see very well at the back.
Thank you. Good luck. Of course, that's going to be very interesting for Alex. As he says, still a lot of noise here on the grid. He's got to get down to turn 1. We saw that yesterday. He took the right approach. He was where he needed to be. But unfortunately, that contact from behind scuppered his race. Yasser Shahin, he's the man who won last time round. He's looking at a little bit of data and trying to get organised. The team are just preparing. The rain does make things a little bit different. We'll go further down the grid. Burit Birambakti, of course. He had a tough day in the office yesterday. 4-time winner of the championship last year. He will be hoping to be able to rebuild and get some important championship points. He's in the hunt, he's right there, but Burit Birambakti has a little bit of work ahead of him. We go down to Daniel Bilski. Starting to lose my voice, I'm so excited. You can see on the side of Daniel Bilski's car the 20-kilogram success penalty ballast that he has. He's getting set to go. Man based in Hong Kong, of course, Australian. He's a former AM Cup champion, doing a very, very good job. Mark Archun in the 777 Zun Motorsport team entry. They've been very good this weekend, local specialists. and we'll be interested to see how they can play out their race. He's got his teammate in the 777 behind. We go back to Vincent Florendo. He's returning to the Cup. Great to have him here. We'll see more of him this year. And as we quickly look down the grid, we can see the GT4 entries as we prepare to go racing for what is round number 4 of the 2019 Audi Sport R8 LMS Cup.
Well, thanks, Sean. I'll let you get a moment to catch your breath, and we can look at the championship point standing. Yasser Shahin top with 58 points from Jeff Emery and Tony Bates. Emery, of course, not here in Zhuhai. So Shahin with a comfortable lead here as we come into Zhuhai. And in the GT4, Mark Williamson again missing Anderson Tenoto. So some possibilities there for some of the drivers here in Zhuhai to make up some ground in the championship standings. And that will certainly throw things wide open as we continue throughout this Audi Sports R8 LMS Cup season. And we'll wait to see whether some of those Australian drivers will join us later in the season for some of the future races. The 777 there of Lin Yiming from the Zun Motorsport crew. And as you've seen with Sean down on the grid and that picture there, it is pretty wet. And that always makes things difficult for the drivers. They haven't had too much practice in the wet, of course. The weather has been a little bit variable throughout this weekend. Not as bad as sometimes we do get torrential downpours in southern China, and races have been known to be postponed here. But they will be racing today. The mechanics, difficult for them, of course, to know exactly what to do. Get the tyre pressure just right despite the lack of practice in these conditions. And we're just a little bit from race time as the drivers will be trying to get in the zone and focus, think about the start. A rolling start, of course, here in the Cup. And that gives you a sense of exactly how heavy it is. Not torrential by any means, but plenty of rain. And you wouldn't imagine, even if it stops shortly, that the track will dry too much before this 30-minute race. 30 minutes plus 1 lap is the duration here, so a sprint race, relatively speaking, in terms of motorsport. And that looks, as the 1-minute board goes up, that Alex Au at the front is being pushed off the track. Well, that is not good news for the pole sitter. Let's take a look at the Zhuhai International Circuit here. 14 turns, as you can see, but a few of them, 3, 8, 13, not really much in it. So 11 sort of full turns, if you will. One of the shorter circuits on the calendar. Doesn't have that long straight that some of the others have, but it's a fun track. The drivers do like coming here, and there's plenty of opportunities for overtaking. And it's the first permanent motorsport track in China.
15-second board up. The rain is still falling. It hasn't let up. This is going to change the complex of things, but what it might also do too, in a positive note, is change the approach of the drivers, because they're not sure of the grip levels under racing conditions down to turn 1, so they should slow things up just a little bit for caution. Now that's easy to say. We talk about the red mist. Once they get going and the right foot's buried on the throttle, usually that theory goes out the window as we get set on the formation lap.
Well, you can see the spray coming off those tyres, but no Alex Au, and that is pretty bad news for the Hong Kong driver, who should have been from pole position. You can see there, but it will be Tony Bates in the 24 car who will lead this field. On the second row, Yasser Shahin and Burt Baranbagdi. Plenty of aggression expected from them.
We talk about aggression. Motorsport is part aggression. It's not really a contact sport. Certainly the organisers don't like to see contact, and the drivers don't like to see too much contact. In these modern race cars, contact doesn't help facilitate a race finish and championship points. But the drivers are serious competitors. They will push it. They're not going to just leave the door open too often, although having said that, we did see a little bit of that from Daniel Bilski yesterday. He admitted that in the post-race press conference. He wasn't going to close the door on Burt Baranbagdi. In the end, a slight penalty for Baranbagdi elevated Daniel Bilski back to position 2 in the race after crossing the line initially 3rd. But you have to be careful. You maybe need to just forget about the red mist for this one, forget so much about attack, because this is now round 4 of 10. The championship points are starting to become vital. Now there is Alex Au. He's the pole sitter. He's back in pit lane. This isn't a good start.
Well, not a good start at all, Sean. And you mentioned on the grid, he mentioned to you that he seemed to have a small technical problem. Let's hope it hasn't developed into something much larger, but he's going to miss this rolling start. The best he can do is get away from pit lane and start from the back of the grid.
He certainly will. And again, as long as he can tiptoe around and keep out of trouble, you would almost expect there'll be a safety car intervention. There he is. The other thing, just talking to Martin Rump on the grid, is how does this throw your mindset? You program yourself for what's coming. Okay, forget everything else. The engineer's done. Shut the door. I'm in the red zone, in zone red, and I'm ready to go. I'm focused, eyes forward. Then suddenly, click, hey, Alex, you need to come back into pit lane. We have a technical issue.
And he will be furious, Sean, won't he? Just so frustrating sometimes for the drivers. Did all the hard work in qualifying, great performances, and on his home track, of course, just from Hong Kong across the water, would have really wanted to put in some good results here. Now, let's see if we can get away first time here.
Well, it's quite likely they'll give them a couple of laps behind safety car because they need to understand what the grip levels are like in that car. So they will step the pace up a little bit. The safety car lights are off, so I'm not 100% sure on that. But the standard procedure in a situation like that, well, 2x2, so that's getting into line.
Yep.
That tends to suggest they're going to go racing after this one sighting lap. So safety car is in. Tony Bates leads the field around. Yasser Shahin now is going to be alongside. There's a bit of a gap, but the action's going to happen down at turn 1. Lights are on. Let's see if we get a start.
Well, those lights go off and we will be go time just moments now from race. The Zhuhai International Circuit, round 4 is underway. Tony Bates on the right-hand side. There's the 59 of Burtburn Bharti trying to come through, but Bates comes across and there's no space. Looks like Bates is going to lead from Yasser Shahin. Burtburn Bharti passing Daniel Bilski for 3rd position there, and it looks, fingers crossed, to have at least been a clear getaway.
It does look pretty good so far, but you can't see it. It's a whiteout. Now, has Alex Au been able to start in that car? What can he do? What can Andrew Harrianto do? Burtburn Bharti looking very racy, but needs to be very, very cautious. They've got through turn 4. That's a good start. There's Harrianto left of screen, so that answers that question. Li Lin is still at the front of the GT4 field. That's one of the GT4s coming to grief a little bit further back. Not sure whether that was Tommy Chan, but certainly the grip levels are one thing these drivers are going to be very, very careful of. There's a diving move up there, so one of the zone entries has actually crept up past Daniel Bilski.
Well, we talked about them battling in qualifying and Mark Kachun going past Daniel Bilski, but also it looks like Bilski may have recovered that position. No, he hasn't. Now, where is Daniel Bilski? Oh, there he is, still in. So this, the 77th of Ma Ka-chung in 4th position now, ahead of Bilski in 5th in the red car.
So visibility is an issue. So this is where track experience becomes a very, very big thing. We don't see Alex Au on the timing monitors just yet. No, it hasn't refreshed. Oh, well, there he is. We don't need to see him on the timing monitors. He's in pit lane. Devastating for the Hong Kong driver, former AM Cup champion in the Cup. That's not the way he wanted to go. It was almost perfect in Q1, perfect in Q2, disaster in race 1, and tragically now disaster in race 2.
Well, that sometimes is racing. You get good luck and terrible luck at other times. But Tony Bates beginning to develop a bit of a lead, and well, it's pretty now. Mark Chen has gone past.
He's looking very racy. He is the most experienced of the local drivers. The first 3 are rookies to this circuit. These are their maiden laps in wet conditions around Zhuhai International Circuit. That said, they're experienced campaigners behind the wheel of an Audi R8 LMS GT3 in wet conditions, as Mark Chun's just gone up the inside of Yasser Shahin. Yesterday's winner, no, he hasn't. And that's going to be very interesting. What happened to the braking point down at turn 4? That'll make things very interesting. Experience will count an awful lot. Yasser Shahin desperate to hold that position and maintain his advantage. Position number 5, Vincent Florendo, very impressive on his return to the Cup in wet conditions. He is right in this. Made the podium yesterday. As there we go. Marco Chun's gone down the inside of Yasser Shahin, who's now going to worry about Vincent Florendo. Will he get the crossover on the run down to turn 13? Yes. And who's that coming up from the rear? Well, that's Andrew Harrianto. Let's go. Let's build this championship. Let's get some points on the board.
Well, Marco Chung, just 20 years old and now in the podium positions, talking to Adley Fung, his driver coach, before the race, and he was saying that he's improved by 2 seconds a lap this weekend alone. So outstanding progress. He also said, as a younger driver, he doesn't have the bad habits that some of the older drivers have developed from racing on the road. So you tell him one thing and he picks it up. Got to have a lot of bravery to be passing at these speeds in this visibility, Sean.
Certainly, and he might be able to press the point that he is a local around here. He has done a lot of miles. I see yellow flag flying. What's going on there? Tony Bates is just being taken by... no. So yellow flags are out. So that tends to suggest we may well be under safety car unless there are yellow flags down there. What can we see on the exit of the corner? What have we missed? Something's gone on here. There is Alex Au. That's not great. So Burn Barkley in position 2. He got past Tony Bates, realised there was a yellow flag out. This looks like safety car. There is Lin, and it's a safety car. So something off screen has happened. We'll keep a close eye on who's disappeared. Lin Yiming has dropped down the order. So that may be the second of the Zun Motorsport crew entries has had a drama somewhere on circuit. There is Adley Fong. Well, former Cup champion, as we go on board for a replay for the start. It's a whiteout. Tony Bates, because he had that slight advantage, picking up that lost position of Alex Au off the start. He just moved across in front of Yasser Shahin. Then behind, the field were very cautious getting through the corner. That was important. Then down to turn 4. Makachun being very strong. Burper and Barkley taking a look at the tail of Yasser Shahin as the field flowed through comfortably. Little bit of drama further back for one of the GT4 entries. They're coming to grips with this. Talking to Tommy Chan a little bit earlier, he said he wants to be very careful, but he's learning from these successful Audi Sport R8 LMS Cup drivers. He said it's been a huge upswing in his learning curve in a GT car, just racing with these guys. So this is part of what all of this mentoring program is about. There's Yasser Shahin under fire from Makachun. That change of position did come, and the local driver moving further up. So we're getting this full replay of the star moments of the opening leg before the safety car intervention. And again, we can only surmise as to what's going on there. It does look like, well, in fact, it may be Chupeng Fei that's got a drama in one of the GT4 entries in the FEA Racing car. So that's his first miles in that car. FEA Racing, another great program. There it is on screen, right. Number 66. So that is the drama. So unfortunately for him, he's beached. We might see a replay of that. No, we're back to the safety car. So FEA Racing is a development program for rising young Chinese stars to give them a flow through into GT racing in this part of the world. So a great program. It's only in its formative stages. We look forward to that emerging as the season goes on, as they join us through to the conclusion of the end of the year. Because we're off to Shanghai in early June for the 3rd race weekend, then off to Suzuka again in Japan. What a classic event that's been in the past. That's in the 3rd week of August, and we conclude the 8th season of the Cup at Sepang in Malaysia, as we did last year on the 23rd to 24th of November.
So Sean, Andrew Haryanto picked up to 6th position now, right behind Yasser Shahin, and the two of those have had a couple of battles on track in the past. So when we do get back to racing, there's still the lights flashing on the safety car, which means there's no intention of going in, but hopefully we will get back to racing before too long. Andrew's just I don't know, something has seems to click. You know, some of the drivers seem to think perhaps there's a lot of pressure as the champion, looking to repeat Adley Fung, saying he just needs to get back to doing step by step. You put on your race suit, you get in the car, you put the helmet on, step by step, instead of thinking, I've got to win, how do I win?
Well, I think one of the big things that any successful sports person, much less racing driver, will tell you is a lot of success comes from psychology. What was interesting last year, if you remember back, Andrew Haryanto, very much a pleasure to have in the garages and around the category, because he was always laughing, always having a great time, was enjoying it. He was very passionate about it. You may well be right. The pressure of being the champion. He said to me when I first saw him here the other day, he's just come in. A number of drivers like Tony Bates turned up, did a few laps around the circuit in an open wheeler just to acclimatise himself. And Haryanto said, Sean, I'm not prepared. I don't feel prepared. Now, by session 2, he was mere tenths off the pace of Alex Au, who'd set the top time in both practice sessions. So that tended to suggest he'd found something. He was quick, but whether he's putting too much pressure on himself, 2 DNFs one DNF certainly, but a very short haul of points after that first event in Adelaide meant that he was a long way behind the 8 ball. So it really is a matter of resetting the clock, taking the focus off that today's a new day, and just go eyes forward.
Sean, I'm going to do my favourite thing and put you on the spot. Andrew Haryanto stands 11th in the standings. He's 52 points behind after just 3 races. Is it too early to declare that we will have a new champion this year?
I don't think it is, sadly, but I don't want to say that out publicly. Fortunately, Andrew can't hear me because he'd be devastated to think that I've written him off already. But there's a long way to go. And talking to Tony Bates after yesterday's incident, he said, look, the good thing is across the 4 races so far, different winners as we're going to go racing again very, very shortly. The points, nobody's got a huge advantage yet. It could have been him on top yesterday. It could have been Alex Au on top yesterday, but Yasser came through unscathed. He leads this championship as we go into what will be, lap number 4, or lap number 5 rather, of the 4th round of 10 for season 2019.
Now it is a 30-minute race plus 1 final lap, and Yasser said it wasn't quite sure which was the final lap yesterday. It's a relief that he got it right. As we go back to racing with Tony Bates leading from Burrit Baran-Bharti, Marco Chung, Vincent Florendo, Yasser Shahin and Andrew Haryanto, the top 6.
Oh, here we are, Haryanto down the inside of Yasser Shahin into turn 1. If we go a wide shot from here, we might see what the outcome of that one has been. Have they got through cleanly? Yes, Andrew Haryanto up on Yasser Shahin. He's up to position 5. What can he do from there? As Tony Bates under fire from Burrit Baran-Bharti down the inside. Gets to the apex first. Can he pull it up? What does that do for Marco Chun? Can he get through? He's just watching. He needs to be very careful, but Vincent Florendo, very, very impressive in the wet. This is great racing. Look how close they are. Batesy won't let this one go. He'll do everything he can to get back up the inside of Burrit Baran-Bharti.
And 10 minutes into the race, this is the first time that Bates is going to have to handle this spray and adapt to those conditions. So Marco Chung, as you alluded to, perhaps has an advantage right now, you would think, while Tony is just trying to adjust to these conditions.
Yeah, well, that's going to be the big thing, and that's where the advantage is. Get in front. You can see what's going on. Having said that, Batesy's now done some laps in the wet around the circuit. He'll have picked his points. He'll know where he needs to be braking in these conditions, and he'll apply that and just focus eyes forward. Now, Florendo has just dropped a little bit back from the local driver, the Zun Motorsport crew entry, in position number 3. That black and bright pink livery. Great to have in the field. Oh, Batesy's gone too deep. He's gone too deep. That's opened the door, and look who's right behind him now. It's Andrew Haryanto. You've got to be careful. He's learning everything he can. Batesy gets the crossover, fires back up down the inside, and he will take that position back into turn 14 and back up to position 2 in this race. Baran-Bharti, though, whilst all this has gone on, is out by... Well, he's out by, as we get to the timing line, 2.4 seconds.
Wow.
But Andrew Haryanto, keep an eye on the Indonesian driver, the reigning champion. What will he do down here? Up the inside of Marco Chun. No, not quite. Oh, Batesy in deep again. Now, whilst these lines might look, Mark, like they're not the traditional lines for this circuit, there's often more grip off the race line. The race line has rubber wear. It has potential oil, fuel, fluids, all those sorts of things. Off that line, there's often, in these conditions, in the wet, more grip. So that's why they will go around that way.
Now, championship leader Yasser Shahin is falling back. He's in 6th position and a good couple of seconds behind Vincent Florendo in 5th. So he's not enjoying these conditions at all.
Oh, Tony Bates is getting some air. Can he stop it? Will he spin? He's off. He's just got to stop it before he gets into the gravel. Can he restart the car? That was massive. He managed to keep it going, has he? Just fire the car up as we look at a replay. Oh. Completely wide.
Bumpy
Look
right.
at the air he gets off the end of this as he comes out. Oh, so lucky. Almost caught it, but, well, doesn't matter how good those Control Pirelli wets are. They weren't able to grip the wet grass. And it looks like he hasn't been able to restart the car. What will that do? That could be yellow flag or safety car. As now Andrew Haryanto holds on to position number 4 and thinks about a move forward back onto the podium.
Well, position number 3. Because, of
course,
with Bates out.
gone.
And Marco Chun, the 20-year-old, up into 2nd if he can hold off Andrew.
Very controlled pace so far. So the advice he's gotten from former Cup champion Adley Fong has been very, very stout. He's also got a lot of experience around here from Pan Delta and Circuit Hero, so he knows this circuit very, very well. The team are based here at Zhuhai International Circuit, as so many of Asia's leading teams are. This is where Absolute Racing began their time in China. Talking to Ingo Mater about that. There is the safety car. It's just come out late, and it's just going to catch the end of the field. Now, that looks like, well, who is that? In fact, that might be Chu Peng Fei in the GT4 for the FEA racing team. Yes, it certainly is. So unfortunately for him, that looks like the end of his maiden run, and what a tough start to come out in these conditions for his first laps. He's chewing the fingernails, is Adley Fong. Can he do it? Can he do it? Will there be a bonus at the end of the day? Oh, Bates, he's got it going. He's got it fired up. So had to reset the systems. He's got the car going under his own power. That's good, but safety car board's out. And it looks like he's lost almost a complete lap on the leaders.
That's right. Now, of course, he can't overtake, so he can't. With the safety car, he could have caught the field right back up. But that's...
now he's a lap down, so that's frustration for the Australian. But again, let's not focus too much on that, as the CTVS races by Absolute entry of pole sitter Alex Au is sitting still in pit lane. There's Hannes Trost from Audi Sport. In Europe, he keeps tabs on the technical side of these cars, usually can resolve a lot of these issues, but that one's a strange one. And that did, as Alex Au said, that did start before he actually got out to start this race.
Future champion watching in the pits there, Sean?
I think it may well have been.
So halfway through this race, we've had a lot of action, almost as much as we had yesterday. Burt Birnbachty from Marco Chung up in second. Andrew Haryanto will be pushing hard as soon as this safety car is back in, I should say. Vincent Florendo, Yasser Shahin in fifth now, and Daniel Bilski. Well, the advantage, of course, of the safety car, if you've been trailing, is that you can catch back up. Bilski, not a massive fan of the wet, he was saying, from some of the damper qualifying sessions, but he should be able to, hopefully, from his point of view, regroup and have another crack once we get back to racing.
Interesting to see whether or not they leave Tony Bates there, because in some restarts they will allow the lap car to stay within the other cars. In other instances, they can often send it back past the safety car around to the tail of the field, or drop it back through the field, wave all the other cars through. If Tony Bates can stay there, there's a fair chance he might be able to get past Burt Birnbachty again. That will put him on the lead lap, almost an entire lap behind. If there's another safety car, then he comes around to the back and he can start to work his way forward. Remember the start yesterday, turn 1, Burt Birnbachty off into the gravel. In the end, he crossed the line in position number 2. There were a couple of safety car interventions. That allowed the field to regroup. That allowed Birnbachty to move forward. One slight faux pas in all of that was he made a passing move under yellow flag conditions. Now, whether he's caught out, things were crazy. We had trouble keeping up with it at various stages. So from inside the cockpit, lots going on. May have seen a flag, may not have seen a flag. They don't have radio communication back to the pits. He made a judgment call, perhaps thinking the race had restarted. Well, then you're in trouble. So unfortunately for him, the stewards make a decision. You get a 30-second additional penalty. You go from P2 to P4. So that has set him back, but he was able to rebuild after an early setback in this race. What we may have against us, though, is the clock, as the safety car now goes. It was for Tony Bates being stopped at the edge of the circuit. He refired. That already sent the safety car out by that point. It's done its laps. Great that they're bringing it in, and we will go racing again in just a corner's time.
Well, you made a great point about Bates. If he can get past Burt Birnbachty, that's the big if. Because this is just a sprint race, not like the marathon races that some of these drivers will be undertaking in Spa, the 24-hour race later in the season, after their performances in the Cup last year. And the safety car has gone. So, looks like we are back to racing with 13 minutes plus 1 lap to go. Burt Birnbachty, not from Tony Bates, because he is a lap down. But Marco Chun in the pink and black in second overall, then Andrew Haryanto. And that shows you how quickly you can progress from the rear of the field here.
Then Yu Ming is stuck behind Li Lin. So Li Lin has the GT4 car up to position number 7. He's sticking with the GT3 cars. No, Marco Chun's gone too wide. Under brakes. Oh. He's just let Andrew Haryanto and Bates and Florendo past. And he's got Yasser Shahin tucked under his rear wing. Well, hello, goodbye. Not so sure. That's what the Zun Motorsport team have under their rear wings. I think that one's a hello. Goodbye. Marco Chun's just gone too deep down at turn 1, and that's opened the door for Haryanto. Now, P2. So, the two drivers that took the title fight all the way to the final round in 2018. Burt Baakhti and Andrew Harrianto now 1-2 in this race.
Well, we saw Adley Fung biting his nails, and that was probably why he was doing so well, Marco Chung, in just prior to that safety car. And then you have to reset, and again, mentally hard to get back on the pace from the off. Burt Baakhti already opening up that gap. Andrew Harrianto up to second position, and that's the 55 car of Vincent Florendo. Another good performance from him, Sean.
Very, very impressive on his return to the Cup. He admitted to me earlier that this is his return to the Cup full-time this year. He'll do the next 3 stops at Shanghai, Suzuka and Sepang. So it's great to see him back, and he's a worthy recipient of a podium finish yesterday, and he may well be able to back that up and get himself back onto the podium. Currently now in position number 3. But what will the 2 Australians behind him, Tony Bates and Yasser Shahin, be able to do?
Well, Bates did not have a good restart there. Of course, as we know, he's a lap down, but he was thinking if we could get back on the same lap. But he's 5th of this group here, but going backwards, it seems.
Yeah, that's a tough call. So I would have expected off the restart he'd be monstering the tail of Burt Baakhti. But again, it's also the wet conditions and this style of circuit. He is used to the tyre. It is a tyre that they use globally for GT competition. A little squirrely too for Kachun as he goes into turn 1. Andrew Harrianto, fastest lap of this race, and he's just run off, obviously, on the exit of turn 1 down to 2, so that you need to be very, very careful. So now Harrianto's going backwards. Now Marco Chun's back up to position number 3. Vincent Florendo, position 2 in this race.
Well, the fastest lap from Harrianto, a 1:46. That's about 11 seconds slower than Alex Al got for pole position. So that is the difference that these wet conditions are making.
But even so, I mean, the rain is still falling, and these Control Pirelli tyres, well, I've just looked outside the commentary box, it's actually stopped, but the circuit is still full wet. These tyres are able to displace that water very, very nicely. You can see the rooster tails out from behind the cars, and to be only 11 seconds slower than a dry qualifying time's very, very impressive. There's Daniel Bielski in the number 27, further back than we would have expected. Position 6 in this race at the moment, although things are a little bit messy with the way the timing monitor only refreshes every lap. Of course, there's been some changes in that, but no change to the race leader at the moment. That's Burt Baakhti. Now, I'm not going to go back and put a commentator's curse on him, but I do need to point out that this was a position we were in the second race at Adelaide a couple of months back. Burt Baakhti had got to the front. He was leading, coming into the final corner for the second last time. Unfortunately, checked his rear vision mirror, could see Australia's Jeff Emery coming up behind him, missed his braking point, shot off the end of the curb, over the grass, into the tyre barriers, and that was the end of his race. There is Lee Lin. Good job from him. Behind him, well, that's changed. No, that's Tommy Chan on screen in the hard memory entry. So we spoke to him earlier on the grid. There's Batesy ahead of Yasser Shahin. The 3 Australians, Daniel Bielski then behind, but Lee Lin, how good is he?
7th position and leading the GT4 category from Tommy Chan, 7th and 8th overall, but 1-2 in the GT4. So another good performance from Lee Lin. Doing double duty, of course. He missed the podium from yesterday's race because he had to jump back in the car.
Changing positions at the top. Andrew Harrianto has regrouped. He's got past on Vincent Florendo. That puts him up to position 3, 2. I'm a little confused now based on where we are. Burt Baakhti leads. Well, Florendo did come into this lap in position 2. So that would put, you'd think, Andrew Harrianto up to position number 2 in this race. Marco Chun, where is he now?
Yeah.
He seems to have gone AWOL. He's shown in position 3 on our timing monitors. Well, that's not the case from what I understand. He doesn't appear to be there on screen. He's further back, it appears. Now just in ahead of Yasser Shahin.
So
no, in fact, he's behind Yasser Shahin, so the Australians are starting to move forward. No, it's Bielski.
Bielski, yeah, then Lee Lin, and then Tommy
Chun?
Chan. He must have spun out.
Well, let's see. So we're going to get a timing monitor refresh shortly as they come through turn 12 down to the kink at 13. Missing the bump. Move to the inside of the field, then back out to get a nice run through the final corner, out wide, just off the curbs, just avoiding the painted white lines. There's the 2 cars now. Is that the 77? That's Marco Chun. He's well back now, unfortunately, after running so strongly before the safety car. He'll be ruining the introduction of that safety car because he was very comfortably too. That's not what we wanted to see. Love seeing that CDVS Racers logo, but unfortunately for Alex Au, It's in the garage and the clock's still ticking. That means he's not going to take any further part in this race.
Well, Burt Bernbachty leads. Andrew Harrianto from the back of the grid. Markichin now going from bad to worse, and he was second position just moments ago. Now was running down in 9th, and perhaps even further down. Well, no, Tony Bates is behind him. Still a lap down. So Markichin all the way down to 9th after doing so well running in those podium positions, and he's going to be further back now.
You can see the gaps on screen. 5.5 seconds. Bernbachty has the advantage over Andrew Harrianto. This is what both of these drivers need to rebuild this championship. Now, where's the championship points leader? He's currently in position number 4. Vincent Florendo, another strong haul of points, in position number 3. So for Bernbachty and Harrianto, this will help them move forward in this championship. From Bernbachty, this would be his first win this year, and he would be the 4th different winner from 4 races so far this year. Tony Bates, Jeff Emery, and of course yesterday Yasser Shahin. It had been an Australian lockout to this point, but at the moment, let's hope Thailand's Bernbachty. I've got my fingers crossed. 6 minutes to go. We want to see him complete this one. Of course, once it gets to 0, it's one more lap for the race leader. That will conclude round 4 of a 10-round 2019 season.
Well, Markichin running in 9th position on screen behind his teammate Lin Yiming in the 777. And disappointment there, but a lot of experience gained this weekend from the youngster, thanks to his driver coach Adley Fung.
And that's likely to be Lin Yiming just working his way forward again in the 777. The GT4s are really taking advantage of these conditions. Have not dropped off the pace too much. That's Tommy Chan. There's Li Lin, who won yesterday. And as Mark was pointing out quite rightly, campaigning TCR Asia or TCR China this weekend, so getting valuable miles. Oh! The 777 is off. That could be beached. That will be beached. Will this see a safety car intervention? This could well be the finish of this race. This might be the saving of Burt Bernbachty. Well, unfortunately for Lin Yiming, just
looked to be turning in.
Oh, it did. It's
suddenly the road wasn't there.
He's a passenger. Not much he can do about that. No grip when you're in the air, and unfortunately, there's no way he's going to dig himself out of that one. What will this do? What will race control say? Will they allow that to happen? Double waved yellows mean that the drivers cannot pass. They understand that there's an issue on that particular corner. They may elect to know. Yellow flags just come out, and I'd expect there's the SC board. Safety car. Will this be the end of the race?
Well, it's going to take a bit of time to move that car, you would think, Sean, particularly with the wet. That's not going to help conditions. So Burt Bernbachty, what a fantastic performance for him, starting from 4th on the grid. Andrew Harrianto from the back of the field, from position number 12 all the way up to 2nd. And Vincent Florendo looking on course for another podium position. 3rd yesterday after that promotion after the race from 4th position, and 3rd today. So, well, what we've said it all, but another good performance from him.
Well, let's see what the final outcome of this is, how quickly they can recover the 777s on Motorsport crew entry of Lin Yiming from the gravel down at turn 1. But you'd have to say, Alex Au, terrible frustration. All things considered this weekend, his experience here, the fact he's a former AM Cup champion in the Audi Sport R8 LMS Cup, he had it all in front of him. He could well have left this weekend as the runaway championship points leader. As it stands now, well, he's going to be well back down the order, well behind the 8 ball as we go to Shanghai. Of course, he has good experience there. When you're talking about Yasser Shahin who's in this championship, Tony Bates who's in this championship, they've not been to some of these circuits, Shanghai, Suzuka, Sepang, so they're not going to be able to apply that experience. Alex Au will be able to apply that experience, but we saw it in practice. Practice 1, Alex Au up by 2 seconds over the field using his experience. By the time we got to qualifying, well, qualifying 2 we saw this morning, Tony Bates on his debut at the circuit, okay, conditions were dry, 4/100ths of a second slower than Alex Au. So home track advantage and knowledge and experience doesn't always, well, there's a prime example of that, doesn't always follow that you're going to be able to apply that and take advantage.
That is Li Yiming, a very disappointed Li Yiming by the looks of things after beaching his car in the gravel. And, well, we talked about Alex Au and the frustration you can have when things don't go right for you on the track. It's a whole different level when you're stuck in pit lane. You can't even get out there to race amongst it.
And that becomes difficult to recover from too. Not just one DNF, but 2 on a weekend, or one's a DNS.
Neither through any fault of his.
Exactly right, and 0 points. That said, well, look at Burr Bharti. Burr Bharti, unfortunately, from Adelaide, very strong, leading most of race 2, comes off with just a few corners to go, and doesn't record any points. He started this weekend badly. As we said a couple of times during the course of this weekend, he took an approach last year when similar things fell his way of saying, well, look, Sean, look, guys, we don't worry too much about that. I'm here to race and enjoy myself, but reality is that it's a different day. Today's a different day. Tomorrow's a different day. Let's just focus on what's gone on, not the past. Can't do anything about history. And he's usually come through and had a strong result. Here it is again. Burr Bharti leading this race. He got good points yesterday. This will help rebuild his championship. Yasser Shahin in position 4. He'll actually be keen, if we do get a restart, to get past Vincent Florendo. Lights are still on. The clock will count down to 0 now next time around. So it's unlikely, it would seem, that we will get a restart.
Well, Sean, I've just done a quick calculation. I know you like to...
That worries me. It worries me. I'm taking a deep inward breath.
So do bear in mind that this is provisional, but Yasser Shahin will stay as the championship leader with 70 points. Then a large gap to Daniel Bilski, who is second with 48 points. And then it's very, very tight indeed. Burt Bharti and Jeff Emery on 41. Tony Bates just a point behind on 40 before we get to Vincent Florendo and Alex Au on 30 points. So Yas, a bit of a lead now after 2 of the 5 race weekends, assuming that this result stays as it is. But certainly plenty to play for. With one race can turn that around if Bilski can get back on it.
It appears the lights are off on the safety car. No, they're not. No, it's just the angle of things. So, yeah, well, let's see. The clock is going to wind down to 0 before they get through the final corner. Will we see the last lap board? Will we see the checkered flag? Time's up. It should be plus 1 more lap. We're not far away from finding out. Now, for Yasser Shahin, what's interesting, I did discover before the start of the race, there's some question about whether he will come to Shanghai. The reason being that the Ben Motorsport Park, for which he is part owner with his brother, they are hosting one of the biggest events in Australia that same weekend. So there was some question that Yasser may need to do the political thing and be at home. I would wonder if he's going to leave Zhuhai with this points lead before he flies out tonight, whether that plan will change, and we will most certainly see
I would agree.
The man in the number 7 from the Ben Motorsport Park on the grid at Shanghai.
He'll be on the phone to his brother saying, please cover me for this one, bro. I need to go and win a championship over in China. So,
well, this is interesting. The lights are off on the safety car. We might get one flying lap. So the final lap, right? Last lap they will meet that.
Here we go.
So they're not on the final lap, I don't think. I think they will get that and have a flyer to the end. This is not the sort of thing I think Burt Bharti wants to see. Let's not have visions of Adelaide. Let's go with his approach of, that's history, it's a different day, let's forget about this. Let's just nail this one. Get the points. I want a race win on the board. He's away. What will Andrew Harrianto do? Will the red mist get him? Will he be able to make a move on Burt Bharti? Look to turn 4 for me. That's where I think it could happen. Good drive, Burt Bharti out of the final corner.
Well, the green flag gives us one more lap. Andrew Harrianto trying to go wide. It's definitely drier, but still significant amounts of spray. So Burt Bharti, Andrew Harrianto, Vincent Florendo, Yasser Shahin, Daniel Bilski, the top 5. And will it stay that way? That is the big question. We'll find out in about a minute and a half.
Good cover. Good out of turn 1 into 2. Now here we are down to turn 4. This was the hoodoo corner for Harrianto yesterday. He goes in deep, very deep under brakes. But Burt Bharti pulled across, took the apex. He's got the point. There's a couple more opportunities. One of them is down at turn 9. And we go up to turn 11. It's a little risky. The final corner 2 potentially. What do we have down here? Tries a tighter line, gone for extra grip, so he should get the run out of the corner, out of turn 9 down to 10. And so far, out of turn 7 rather, we're down to turn 9 now. The left-hander, what do we have here? We've seen yesterday, this was the hoodoo corner for most of the field. No, he's got through, and I think really that Andrew Harrianto is going to want to see this one through. He'd be happy with position number 2, a haul of points. and he'd probably be quite happy to see his good mate Biren Bhakti take the win. What do we have under brakes here, or will that just go out the window completely? Oh, very close 11. It's a risky point. Side-by-side grip levels off the exit. Biren Bhakti's got it. He comes to the inside to miss the bump. Try and protect that line a little bit more. One corner to go. Fingers crossed for the Thai driver. Can he make it happen? Biren Bhakti has got it, but how about Harriento under brakes? A big late dive, but Biren Bhakti, he has taken the win. What a great result for round 4. Andrew Harriento made it all kinds of interesting across the line.
Well, Lee Lin just at the top.
Well, Lee Lin had actually lost position to Tommy Chan on the restart. So Tommy had used his experience locally to get that lead. And a very happy Biren Bhakti. What a great result. And they will certainly celebrate on the podium.
Well, bold move from Andrew Harriento. You'd think the way his season has gone, he would just have tried to bank those 18 championship points to get up to basically kickstart his season. But he was giving it everything on that final lap. Just wasn't close enough. So no change in the GT3. But GT4, as we said, Tommy Chan leapfrogging Lee Lin on that restart, that final lap, to win by just, about a second or so, with Lee Lin skidding around that top corner. So significant change there. 7th overall for Tommy Chan, but top in GT4.
Well, Lee Lin had done so much right this weekend, and they were so close to the tail of the GT3 cars. Even despite the fact we had those safety car interventions, there wasn't much separating their top pace. In fact, Lee Lin's best lap was 153, 145 for Biren Bhakti. Okay, that's 9 seconds. That's a little bit different. They didn't get a full run through, but certainly the racing was impressive across both GT3 and GT4. And what a good end result going to the checkered flag for Biren Bhakti. The 4th winner from 4 races of 10 this year. He's a 4-time winner last year. He was right in title contention all the way up to the final round. And he'll be hoping that that advantage will help him catapult into Shanghai and some more serious points. We'll see him racing again next weekend, of course, a part of the Audi team in Blancpain GT World Challenge Asia. It's in his own backyard next weekend at Buriram in Thailand. So those fans of the Cup who want to join us next weekend, we'll have all the live coverage from Chang International Circuit, and we'll see more of Kandasek Kasiri, his teammate, and Biren Bhakti there. But for now, Biren Bhakti, the Thai driver, takes his first win of 2019.
Well, for me, Sean, I'm waiting to see what Andrew Harriento has to say as he steps out of the car here. Presumably his elements of disappointment getting so close from the back of the field, that which would have been a dramatic win up there with absolutely his best. But you'd think, given, as I said, given the way his season's gone, DNFs in 2 of the 3 races coming up to this round 4. But it's all about Biren Bhakti. He takes the plaudits, looks pretty happy, doesn't he? Pretty quiet, understated man. But gets
a kiss from the boss.
Yeah, he's happy. He's happy.
Yeah, and deservedly so. He drove very, very well. He drove well yesterday too. He was a real star yesterday from towards the rear after that off at turn 1. The Thai King, that is a memory of all sorts of things from the past with Thailand, and that's a great result for him as we go to the replay. Very fast down to turn 1. Of course, this has been sped up just a little as we get to the breaking point. We got through quite comfortably. And down to turn 4, we got through there too. Biren Bhakti had a look at the tail of Shahin, managed to work his way past before too long. A little bit of drama further back for Xupeng Fei in the GT4 entry as we go across to the podium again. So the drivers are down there. We should hear from Sophie very shortly with our race winner. Be very interested to hear from him. And with any luck, we may well be able to hear from Andrew Harriento. A little bit of redemption, I think, is the big word. Let's go back to that replay. We're down to turn 1. And that's where Bates had the lead. And he was very much Robinson Crusoe. Nobody had been around the circuit in the wet to that point.
Can you explain that one?
No, I won't explain that one.
Something about an island?
First time. Well, he was all at sea at one stage. But anyhow, let's get back to what the replay was like. Yasser Shahin was looking for some more strong points after a great race yesterday, but very, very different track conditions. Market Chun was very, very impressive in the 7-7. The Zun Motorsport crew entry, coached by Adelie Fong, former Cup winner, was doing a brilliant job prior to safety car intervention.
Up to second at one point.
Up to second and under fire from yesterday's winner, using local knowledge to great experience. Unfortunately, by this point, Alex Au was out of the race. He was unable to start from pole. This was the reason for the safety car. That overtaking move was just Burper and Bhakti coming past Tony Bates. Bates had seen the yellow flag. So on the restart, Bates got away again. Biren Bhakti was the one pushing. But unfortunately for Market Chun, very quickly things went a bit pear-shaped. He's down at turn 4. It was Biren Bhakti safely through on the inside. That was good news. And then for Batesy, went a little bit wrong, opened the door, dropped back, probably a little bit dirty with himself. That may have pushed him a little bit hard, and then ultimately threw himself off the circuit. Went deep, off track, kept the foot in a big airborne jump. Not sure Mark Sutton would have got that one, but he may well. We'll find out shortly. Keep track on the social media platforms. It may well have been in the right spot at the right time, like usual. There's green flag. We got racing again. And both of the Zun Motorsport entries had dramas after the restarts. That was frustrating for them. Lee Lin, yesterday's winner in GT4, was doing a sterling job in the car that Anderson Tenoto took to the 2018 GT4 title. And that was Tommy Chan. He managed to get ahead after the second of the safety car interventions. And this big moment for the 777, wow, off the circuit, unfortunately for Lin Yiming. That brought out the last of the safety cars. The clock wound down to 0. They had one flying lap across the line. Well, there is the 77. He'd been the star of the early part of the race, Market Chun. And we saw this move. He was closing in. Andrew Harrianto tried to get through at turn 4, couldn't quite do it. It all came down to the final corner. He tried again at 9, and also had a good look down at 11. 11 was the kicker. We weren't sure whether he might just keep it going. He got up the inside, but the drive that Biren Bhakti had off the corner was enough to allow the Thai driver to get through. It came down to the final corner. Huge lunge under brakes for Harrianto, and that was it. End of race.
Oh my God, congratulations to our second round winner here in Zhuhai. Virat, talk about starting from 4th place and now finish on top. Yeah. Talk about through the very beginning, especially with this rain condition.
It's very difficult to predict because I never often drive in the rain. So I try my best and stay calm and try a little by little to make it happen. Yeah.
And if you use one word to summarize the race today, which word are you going to choose?
Spectacular. And it's crazy, you know. It's like never happened before.
So Sophie just getting into position with the second place finisher. Andrew Harrianto started all the way on the back of the grid. Let's take a look.
With our second place winner, Andrew, talk about starting from the very last place. What is your mental status at that time, especially with 3 safety car session goes on?
Just don't hit anyone. That was the only thing. Just don't hit anyone. That's it. Yeah, sorry for the incident yesterday. I was. Yeah.
And did this second place finish make up some disappointment from yesterday, or can be the best summary for this weekend?
Yeah, I think it gave me some confidence back. Yeah, so yeah, I should drive more carefully next time.
Thanks a lot, Andrew, and back to your guys.
Certainly, Mark Dreyer. That was one of the highlight points last year. When he got involved in incidents, he was very angry at himself that he'd ended the run of another driver, because just like Biren Bhakti, he's here to have fun and enjoy himself. That said, as Yasser Shahin explained to me across breakfast this morning, this is the way things are going. But looks like we have another interview down in pit lane with Sophie, and we'll catch up with the action.
Vincent, come back to the Cup with 10 kg in your car, and especially these raining conditions, 3 safety car sessions. How does it change your performance today?
Well, I just try to drive, cleanly, consistently, not too aggressive, and trying to find the grip, which is my first time here in the rain. So, I was taking the inside line, just looking for the grip, because I saw everyone overshooting in the outside. So I just kept my cool, just stay on the inside, So I was gaining. Then at one point I was in second place, So it was a good race, Glad to be back here.
Thank you so much, Vincent, and cross back to your guys.
So Sean, just going back to Andrew Harrianto, he seemed, as he said, more apologetic than confident. Perhaps some of the confidence coming back, but didn't necessarily see it there.
I think it was a fairly measured drive, to be perfectly honest. He did take that big, deep dive down at the last corner, one last-ditch effort, but the reality was he'd been through that corner 15 prior times. He knew what the grip levels were. He knew how deep he could go in, so he gave it a shot. He's a racer. They're all racing. The incidents can become a problem. They're very apologetic when they take out their rivals, but they are racing. We're not here to play tiddlywinks, if you know what that is. But, it could be old like me.
I do, yeah.
It's going back. But the main thing is they want to go racing, so they need to try. You're not going to win a championship by letting people through, by just succumbing to position number 2. So in the end, I think Andrew Harrianto drove very, very well, and it is redemption. It gives him a chance to show that he's still there, he's still racing, he's still strong, and he's still going to be a factor in this championship.
Well, confirmation of Burt Birnbach's win in round 4. Andrew Harrianto and Vincent Florendo rounding out the podium. Then comes Yasser Shahin, who extends his lead at the top of the championship table. Daniel Bilski is second in the overall standings, 5th in the race. Then Marco Chung listed as 6th here, and he had a very eventful race. Tommy Chan and Li Lin, and did seem that Li Lin, well, Tommy Chan, that was on the last lap where Chan went ahead for the GT4 win, 7th overall. Then Tony Bates, Lin Yiming Chu, Peng Fei and Alex Au, of course, not finishing the race.
Unfortunately, Tony Bates' result defies the speed that he had across the weekend. Of course, he was a factor in that incident in the first race. Unfortunately, that ended his run. He's looking forward to a new day today and should have been right there in the mix. Certainly was running at the front early, just testing the grip levels, but got caught up in change of position after safety car. So to Marco Chun, that did set him back. But in the end, he crosses the line, classified in position number 6. So it's not a bad end result. And it'd be nice to see more of him this year. Only 20 years of age, as you rightly point out. The Zun Motorsport crew are building a big enterprise here in China. And I think what they need to do is they need to move beyond Zhuhai and start to get themselves involved in more racing in the region. And as Tommy Chan said to us on the grid, racing with these guys is important. You get to see how it works. They push you to a new level.
Well, Sean, the race is over as we wait for the podium, but it's not over, is it? Because all the action is going to be wrapped up and rounded up by the two of us in the Facebook Live session. Let's talk about this. What's coming up?
Inside #ZoneRed. We'll go through some of the incidents that have happened this weekend. We're hoping to talk to some of the drivers. We are an hour, 20 minutes or so away from going live with our program. But stick with us as we unwrap what happened across the weekend, review things, look at some of the footage, hopefully talk to some of the drivers. Certainly Martin Rump's keen to give us his insight on the way this weekend's gone. But be interactive. If you have a question, there's something you want to know, jump online, ask us that question. We'll do our best to try and answer it for you.
We certainly will. And why wait? Get on the Facebook page now. Send those questions over to us. Give us a little bit of preparation, I suppose. That would help. But we can do things on the fly too.
We'll certainly explain. We do things on the fly quite often, but we'll certainly explain a little bit more about inside #ZoneRed, what that's about. And my voice tends to suggest to me I've been inside Zone Red quite a bit this weekend.
When you were down on the grid, I thought you were about to lose your voice for a minute. Thought I was going to be stuck doing the commentary on my own, but just still waiting for the podium here that usually starts with the GT4. Tommy Chan, who, well, he double win for him because not only did he win his category, but he didn't crash, and that was important for him. He's qualifying for the Macau race weekend later in the year, but he's got 2 important races, and the first one for him comes up 2 weeks from now. So he wanted to make sure that he got the car back home in one piece.
He certainly did that. Of course, the 99 entry, which finished second today, first yesterday, Li Lin. That is the car that Anderson Tanoto, he's another driver we will see back for the next event at Shanghai. He had a business commitment that kept the reigning champion from being on the grid here this weekend. He was a big part of the program in Adelaide, but nice to see him back next round. And his car too, he'll be very happy with that. That's wound up with a win and a second place finish. The GT4 has been a great addition over the last couple of seasons to the Audi Sport R8 LMS Cup. And certainly the GT3 action this weekend has been fantastic.
So rounds 5 and 6, June 1st and 2nd at the Shanghai International Circuit. And then after that, before rounds 7 and 8, we have the Road to Spa race over in Europe for Yasser Shah and Jeffrey Lee. and
Burren Barty and Andrew Harrienzo.
Yeah, that's going to be exciting.
They will be sharing a car. That will be a big step for them. 24-hour race in a car supported by Audi Sport Customer Racing Asia. Full factory support from Audi Sport 2, of course. They are behind overseeing all of these customer racing programs around the world. This is going to be a fantastic event. We'll be there. We'll keep you up to date with all the coverage as that one plays out. But what an amazing prize that was last year through drivers that won rounds qualifying to get a seat in that car. And Yasser Shahin admitted he's really, really looking forward to being there next. Well, that's in July.
And it's all racing, of course, but completely the opposite end of the spectrum. The race is 48 times longer than one of these. Imagine doing 48 of these races back to back. Now, of course, there's 4 drivers, but still, it's a marathon effort. And nighttime driving for the vast majority of these drivers is certainly new when it comes to racing at night.
Well, we certainly saw last year, if you go back to Sepang, the season closer, a setback for Burren Barty in the dark. He wasn't comfortable at all in the dark conditions, so that's something they will take into account. He will try and do some testing. Of course, Sepang International Circuit these days does allow a lot of night racing. He'll do a lot of testing. He'll be prepared for that. And the drivers are taking it very, very seriously. Some of the best GT drivers in the world will be there on the grid, and they will do their level best. And that was a fantastic prize last year. Of course, the prize for the winners this year is to be part of a 3-car crew in the Suzuka 10-hour in 2020.
Now for Burrit, given his dislike of the dark, do you try and roster him off away from those night shifts, or does he just have to do a few and do the best he can?
Depends on his teammates, how they feel about it, whether they go back-to-back stints. Usually you'd see an hour for a stint, 2 hours for a double stint, depending on the conditions. Your night time at that part of the year, of course it's summer in Europe, you've probably got 8-9 hours of darkness. There is a way that they could potentially get him into the twilight, get him out of the car, run the other 3 drivers through, and as the sun starts to approach again, put him back inside the car. But that's a personal taste issue. That's up to them, how they'd like to go through all of that sort of thing. So we'll see how that plays out, but certainly the Road to Spa has been a great program last year. And to see these drivers who are running very much at the top of their game share a car, drive together as a team, that will certainly change the dynamic.
Well, here it looks like the drivers emerging for the podium celebrations, and they can now relax with Burrit on the right-hand side. Then to Andrew Harrienzo and Vincent Florendo on the left, starting with Vincent for position number 3. And he finished 3rd yesterday, but of course we didn't know that until slightly later after the race. So 2nd podium of the weekend, but the first time he's actually got to stand on the steps and spray the bubbly. Andrew Harrienzo doesn't look hugely happy, but certainly his best performance of this young season, 2nd position. And a very happy looking Burren Barty on the top step.
Well, that is a great podium for round 4 of the 2019 season. And yeah, I think a little bit reflective is Andrew Harrienzo. He doesn't like to see any kind of contact that does eliminate his rivals. And a good result for Burren Barty. That is fantastic. Gets his season well and truly operational. Now, where does that put them? If you go back to your mathematics and run from the top,
well, Yasser Shahin at first with 70 points, then a large gap, 22 points down to Daniel Bilski on 48. And then it gets very tight. Burren Barty joint 3rd with Jeff Emery on 41. Tony Bates in 5th with 40. And then in 6th equal, Alex Au and Vincent Florendo with 30 points. Great scores from Vincent, having just joined for this race weekend, already up on 30 points.
He said to me earlier he's disappointed to have missed Adelaide due to business commitments, but he was really looking forward to getting back with the Cup, and what great reward, consistency. And he takes 2 podium finishes, 2 third places. He'll wear a little bit of weight adjustment parity for the next round, likely to be 20 kilos. And certainly Burren Barty will carry some of that too. So too Andrew Harrienzo as we go through to Shanghai in the 1st and 2nd of June.
So the group photo for the GT3 top 3. And we will have, that's Martin Kuhl on the right-hand side, just on the right-hand side of the screen there. You spoke to him yesterday on the grid, Sean?
Spoke to him today on the grid, certainly about the conditions. Loves the Cup. Really is a great opportunity for Audi in this part of the world. We're in our 8th season, and Martin has been to every one of those races. You've been to most of them.
I thought he was trying to get out of the photo, but he was just trying to get out of the spray.
Arianto's, he's got that boyish grin again. He'd be loving this. And a nice result again for these 3 drivers. Valuable championship points as we head towards the GT4 podium. We look forward to speaking to those drivers, and we hope we can bring you some more inside gossip on exactly how this played out as we go inside Zone Red. It's a little bit later today, 2:40 p.m. local time on Facebook Live. Make sure you join us, and we will critique the weekend.
So Lin Yiming from the Zun Motorsport crew in 3rd position from the GTC category, I believe, Sean.
Yeah, the Challenger
Trophy.
Yeah.
So the 2 Zun drivers, Marco Chung, the youngster, on the left-hand side in position number 2.
Well, this is for the rookie GT drivers, and Vincent Florendo coming back into the championship. Certainly that puts him into that category, so he's very happy. Nice return to the Cup when you can go home with an overhead locker and the plane full of trophies. And a great result. I mean, we talk about the emerging teams in Asia. There's a number of them now, certainly in China. Absolute kicked this off back in about 2010. Now you've got Tianxi Racing Team are based here in Zhuhai. Zun Motorsport crew are based here in Zhuhai. The Leo team, the FEA team, which is developing young talent for GT competition in China. This is fantastic for the future of this region as it emerges. And for 8 seasons of the Cup, certainly Audi Sport have been instrumental in the growth of the sport in this part of the world.
And I think what's changed is Hong Kong has always been a bit of a hub, but these are genuine mainland-based teams. Zhuhai, of course, just across from the water, but they are Chinese-funded, Chinese-organised teams, and it's great to see. There's obviously a lot of international expertise in some of these teams, particularly in the early days as they start to set up and learn, but we are beginning to see more Chinese drivers, of course, and Chinese mechanics, Chinese team managers, and that's what we want to see.
Well, we need to make a shout out to one of our colleagues, Mars Kang, who's not here this weekend. Usually a detailed Chinese commentator on this sport. He knows a lot about it. He too has a race team based here in Zhuhai and has been responsible for the development of some of these younger drivers coming through the ranks. So very much a focal point for motorsport in China here at Zhuhai International Circuit.
Just wait for Tommy and Li Lin to come out. Unfortunately for him, not able to stand on the top step yesterday, so he does get his podium moment, but not quite as good. And here is Tommy Chan. So 1 and 2 for these two in the GT4 category.
Well, a lot of cheering from the local fans. There are some here, despite the fact that the weather changed quite dramatically. We did lose the overhead canopy on the main grandstand here at Zhuhai last year in one of the big typhoons that went through Hong Kong and through Zhuhai. But there are some die-hard fans sitting here under umbrellas in the grandstand. That's great to see. Certainly that has been a big part of competition here. It does have good local support, and we're just, mere kilometres away from Macau, and that very much has been a hub of motorsport in this part of the world for, 65 odd years.
Well, Zhuhai sometimes gets huge crowds with absolutely packed grandstands for the Pan Delta Festival as one of the ones on the calendar where everyone turns out. As you said, this is a holiday in mainland China with people back to work tomorrow on Sunday, but the weather has unfortunately meant that a number of people have stayed away, understandably, but hopefully they are watching from home.
Well, yeah, I think that's probably right. They've predicted what the weather was going to be and maybe just stayed away from this one, but yeah, usually we get some very, very stellar crowds here at Zhuhai. Very passionate fan base. And a nice result for Tommy Chan. Well, take us out, Mark Dreyer, as we prepare for what will be a very, very interesting scenario in just over an hour's time.
Well, Yasser Shahin was the man of the moment yesterday, but the two who performed so well last year and had disappointed, getting their seasons back on track. Burrit Birunbakdi with the win, Andrew Haryanto finally a podium for the reigning GT3 Cup champion, and that has made things a little bit spicy at the top of the champion standings. We'll be reviewing everything in a few moments, about an hour or so, on the Facebook Live page, and we'll see you after that in Shanghai.